Welcome to the Ditch the Struggle podcast. I'm your host, Alana Rosso. I'm a graphic designer turned career and success coach who knew I could do better, but kept falling short of where I wanted to go. But after years of exploring personal and career development, business, money mindset, and energy work, I'm here to tell you that yes, you can move from stuck and defeated to empowered and confident. Ready to dive in? Awesome. Together, let's ditch the struggle. Hi, everyone. We have a conversation today with the formidable Marsha Vanwynsberghe. I have wanted her on the show forever. And we are going to talk about the subconscious mind today and beliefs and a whole bunch of other things. You're just going to love this conversation. So who's Marsha? Marsha is the 6-time best-selling author of When She Stopped Asking Why. She shares her lessons as a parent who dealt with teen substance abuse that tore her family unit apart. Marsha has published 7 times, most recently with her co-platform, Everybody Holds a Story, and she is on a mission to continue to help women and men to speak, share, write, and publish their stories. Using her tools, outspoken NLP certification, programs, coaching, and Own Your Choices, Own Your Life podcast, Marsha teaches the power of radical responsibility and owning your choices in your own life. She empowers people how to heal and own their stories, be conscious leaders, and build platform businesses that create massive impact. Let's dive into the conversation. Welcome, Marsha. I am thrilled to have this conversation with you today.
Oh, I'm thrilled to be here, Alana. Honestly, I love being a guest on podcasts and I love supporting other female podcasters.
Yes, and we'll talk about your podcast, which I love as well. Why I really wanted to have this conversation today is I've been meaning to have an episode that talks about specifically the subconscious mind. And when I thought subconscious mind, I thought Marsha. Like, it is Marsha. We have to have this conversation with her because I've dove into this work for years now. But I kind of want to come at it from the beginning because I feel like I also need to remember what it's all about. So before we get into all the subconscious mind and all of that great stuff, why don't we start with a little bit of backstory about who you are?
Okay, amazing. My name is Marsha Vanwynsberghe, and everything online you will find me at is Marsha Van W because it's a long last name. We just made it simple. And I am an NLP trainer. So I'm a neuro-linguistic programming trainer. And the reason that I lead with that is because I entered into the work of NLP and subconscious reprogramming in 2020. I was fascinated. I didn't take it for my business. I didn't take it for anything. I took it for me because I realized that there were repeat stories that I was living like nonstop repeat, that I assumed that was what my life was supposed to be and how it was supposed to look. And so I dove into that work. And as I did, I started to think, this is actually very transformational to understand this. And it's very simple concepts that everyone can connect in their own life and their own business. And it can make such a big difference. So I continued to dive down the work. And I did it through my practitioner, then my master practitioner, and then my trainers so that I could create my own coaching certification to support people, a lot, primarily women right now, in how to share their message from the stage in a book, whether that is the podcast, whether that is like as a big keynote TEDx talk, in really understanding like what are the blocks and barriers that are holding people back from going after what they want to create. And I named it outspoken because that was the word I was constantly told as a kid. I was outspoken and I used to think it was a bad thing. And now I'm so proud of that word. So there. That's me.
Yeah, I feel like some of our listeners are probably also given that word when they're younger. I wasn't a great listener to. I was just like, I wanted to just chatty chat and sometimes talk over everyone, but I feel like I had something to say. And so I feel when I hear the word outspoken, it's someone who has something to say, they want to share something, but there is the fear, there is the block, there's so much going on that I think stops us from doing what we want to do, saying what we want to say, creating what we want to create. I work with a lot of creatives who are just paralyzed to put their stuff out there. It's a big thing and it's a big challenge.
It is. Fear of judgment is like, it's right up there with one of the things that, especially in this online space, right? Like we all know you put a reel up, you put a picture up, and it's maybe a snapshot of like 5-10 seconds of your day. And that almost opens you up in the sense that people are like, well, that's who she is. That's what her life is like. And it's like, that's like 5 seconds of my day. And so I put it into context. So we're very much, not seeing the whole picture from everyone. And I try really hard to be very open and real online, and not from a negative sense, but just real, because I want people to know that the tools that I practice, I mean, I use them every day because my life's on me every day. So it's just like, how do I lead and how do I show up in that way? So I don't do the fake false positive, because that doesn't feel good to me and that's not authentic. But that's a piece of it. So people are afraid of what are others going to think or say about them all the time. That's probably one of the number one comments. And actually what happens is people are like, oh my God, your word outspoken speaks to me.
Mhm.
Yet I'm deathly afraid over here as like, what will people think or say? And I always ask like, okay, so what are the things that you're worried about hearing? And people will mention it, you are too much, you say too much, or whatever those words are. And then my next question is always like, who are they? Right? Because we're always like, we're afraid
Mhm.
they are going to say something. It's really important to call that out. It's almost always like immediate family, a
Yes.
parent, a sibling, an ex. It's along that lines. And then the next thing I always ask is like the words that someone else says to you will have no effect if you don't already think them about yourself. I really, this is an ouch moment, but
Mm.
they will have zero effect if they don't reflect in you something that you're already saying to yourself.
Ugh.
And that's a really, like, I say that with love because it's an aha moment, right? Like, I like to be real. And when we can see that, like, we are the problem, we're also the solution. It's not a negative. It's like, okay, wait, I've already said those things to myself before. I think those thoughts. So
Mhm.
why am I letting someone else dictate whether I stop or start? Because I'm already doing that language to myself. Like, I'm already saying it to myself. And that becomes a bit of an eye opener for people. And then the last thing I always say is that, like, judgment's not going to go away, because there are still always hurt people who will respond that way. Pick up any viral post online and you will see, 80% of the people are cheering on somebody who's going on a weight loss journey, who's doing, like, they will cheer them. 10 to 20%, I read the comments and I'm like, wow, you must be hurting, because I
Yeah.
can't imagine speaking to
I
someone.
I know, I'm always shocked by what I see people,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
they're hurting, and that's hard, and I can understand that people don't wanna put themselves out there to receive that kind of potential feedback.
hmm And the only way to get better at navigating, and I mean, this is like feedback in the online space. Chances are good, if it's really holding you back in that way, it's probably holding you back in other areas in your life. Like, it's
Mhm.
probably holding you back in other areas, whether it's other rooms you walk into, how you play full out, what you let people see in you. Like, it doesn't just show up there, it shows up everywhere. The other question I always ask is like, who at the end of your life will you regret that you didn't play full out? Like, that's always the thing that gets me is like, will I regret if I didn't try? And if it's a yes, then I'm like, okay, well, we're just going to do it and figure it out. And with practice, I promise this, with practice, you will get to a point that you will see some of those comments and it's like, interesting. Like, it's neutral. It's
Yes.
neutral. And now I know I can bother people and I'm quite okay with this, but it's given me time and space. Now, when I get comments like that, and I did get a pretty nasty one just only a few weeks ago, I'm like, wow, I don't know what's going on in your life that you drop into my DM and say that, but interesting. And then I just literally, I thank and bless them, because you've
Yeah.
given me content for a podcast. You've given me content for social media. You do give me content. And that's how I look at it, because I will turn around and not the person's name, but I will turn around and share it, because again, back to being real, I want people to know that as you continue to grow, that stuff doesn't go away. You get better at how you handle it. And that can't happen if you don't start somewhere in putting yourself out in a way that feels still safe in your body.
Mhm. Oh, and we're gonna dive into the body piece, 'cause I know we love to talk about that, but what were some of the struggles that brought you to this place of looking into NLP, wanting to better your life and wanting to change things?
hmm So many things. First off, in a couple of reflection of your earlier episodes, like, I really resonated with the word struggle, because I said struggle a lot. Like, that was
Mhm.
a word that I said, stuck in struggle nonstop. And it's because I also had the belief that this is how my life was supposed to be. A belief that I guess I was meant to do it the hard way. I used to even say the words, which is embarrassing, but I used to say, like, I must have got on the wrong bus. Like, I got on the bus, the hard bus. I got
Oh,
on the
you
hard
got
bus.
on the hard bus. Oh,
Huh? Got on the hard
interesting.
bus. Yep. I used to say those things. Now, in full transparency, I've had a lot of major challenges in my life. And I'm not downplaying anyone else. I know I have. And I've had a lot of health struggles. I've had a lot of multiple surgeries and, traumatic things happening to the body. I had about 12 years ago, we were parents who were dealing with teen substance abuse. So speaking of topics nobody wants to talk about, shame that's like rampant, it was a really hard time. And because they were minors during that time, I found myself feeling very stuck, like very, very stuck. I had very little choices of what I could do. And it took a long time to shift that. Like, I mean, I know it sounds easy now. I just want to put it into perspective that those first couple of years, it was really messy of not knowing and understanding my language. And I didn't understand that this was NLP. But about 12 years ago, I was listening to Tony Robbins, and he was somebody who brought NLP to the mainstream. And at that time, I was listening to YouTube videos because I knew that I didn't have the answers. I didn't know what the answers were, but I knew I didn't have the answers on my own. I hated how I felt. I didn't like how I was responding to life. I didn't like how I was feeling. And one of the things that he talked about was that, like, what are words that you use all the time? And for me, it was stuck and struggle. Like, those were the words.
Yeah.
And I thought, well, but I am though. Like, I am stuck. Like, I am stuck in the situation. I do have kids where I'm dealing with this. I don't have a lot of support. So it is true, and it can be true. Like, you can feel like you're struggling. You can have those moments. It's not discounting feelings, but it was a moment of recognizing that the more I acknowledge that, I am acknowledging what I don't want.
Yeah.
That was a turning point for me. And so I did that work for probably 5 years, 100% on myself, not with anyone else, not doing any coaching of any kind. And when 2020 happened, my job was gone, literally, like my 27-year career, gone completely overnight. And then it became the struggle of identity that I'm not really sure who I am and what I do. And during that time, I thought, well, I've kind of prayed for some time to work in the online space. So like the next day, March 18th, I got up and I started working. I'll never forget, my husband was like, well, you can take a day. Like, it's okay. It's going to only be 2 weeks. And I'm like, no, it's not. I knew it wasn't. And I said, what if this is what I prayed for? So I took my skill set from my rehab years, my physical rehab years as a kinesiologist, into the online space. And that means that I put my head down, worked my butt off, burnt out nonstop, and felt this constant, like, how am I going to make this work? How am I going to make this work?
Mm-hmm.
And during that time, I didn't know it, but I was prepping for an emergency back surgery. And that was during 2020 when things was very chaotic. So here I am in a space of recognizing that I've turned 50, my job is gone, my identity is gone. I'm learning how to recover from back surgery. And I don't know what I'm doing. Like, I have no idea what I'm doing anymore. And I kept feeling like I'm too old to be here. Like, this felt like I don't belong in this space, the online space. I felt old. And it sounds crazy, but at that time, a
It's
lot
not.
of the 30-year-olds were saying, I'm too old to be here.
Oh,
And I'm
yeah.
like,
It does not sound crazy at all. I mean, I came from the
they're too
cosmetics
old.
industry. I was like ancient when I was working, and like, it is a thing, like ageism, the fear of that. I totally get
It is.
it. Yes.
It is.
Yeah.
And then I saw NLP come across I was in the hospital. I saw NLP come across my screen. I thought it was a sales program, to be honest. I thought NLP was just sales. I didn't know. I didn't know what I didn't know. And as I started to read the languaging, there was something that spoke to me. And it's almost like, for me, when I have those moments, my higher self, call it whatever you want, the moment for me was that it doesn't have to be this way. Like, you actually are taking all of your skill set, which I'm proud of all of that. But I took it and I went right into the online space with the same energy, 12 hours a day,
Yeah.
nonstop burnout, not enough, not enough, not enough. At the bottom of all of that, like, all of us, if we took all of our limiting beliefs, all of our limiting stories, and we put them into a pot and we boiled them down, we're going to come down to not enough,
Mhm.
not being enough, And that was what was on repeat. And I went, what if there is a repeat story that I have not taken time to figure out? Because I kind of muscled through my change. Like I just pushed through and muscled through,
Yeah.
felt it. And that was the door opening for me for NLP, that I went, maybe I'm supposed to learn this. Like never did I ever have an idea of I'm going to teach it. I'm going to do nothing like that. I just knew I was supposed to learn it.
So you white knuckled through all the things you had to do, which is just
All of it.
like, which is so common for struggle addicts that the struggle people, it's like you will find a way, and this is especially I was able to do this, find a way to make things harder,
Yep.
find a way to make things more tiring, exhausting. I mean, my default setting was having as many jobs as I possibly could. So I never really would have less than 3 gigs going on at a time. So that was like, I just had to stay busy, keep doing stuff. The more productive I was, the more valuable I was, the more enough I was. Then that was also a way, well, I could justify it by saying I needed to make more money. So of course I need to take on 3 jobs
Of course.
instead of trying to find one job that actually maybe paid my bills, or there was just so many ways I could have gone around it differently, and that was just the struggle addiction, that feeling of needing to white knuckle through things. It's not to say, and I want to go back to that point you just made, is that it's not to say that you're not stuck and you're not struggling, because those can definitely be true. However, the more we reinforce that in our head and decide that that is the only path we can take, then we're kind of screwed. Then we're going to create more of it.
Oh, and you're 100% right. And we will never, like, I think if you are a person that resonates with, ask yourself, like, when is it enough? Like, when is it? And I'm not talking about enough money. I'm talking about like I could not see a point where I could feel that it was enough, like that I had done enough. And I kept feeling like it was money and it was this and it was this. And to be completely honest, as I was learning this, I still didn't connect the dots until later. As I was learning this, I came into 2021 and had like my biggest business year ever. Like I finally went over 6 figures, which sounds like big deal. But for me, as working as a kinesiologist for 27 years, full time, like ridiculous, insane hours. If you wanted to make more, you had to see more clients. That was the only way. There was no other way to do it back then. And I remember, like, I think the most I ever made was like 50 or 60,000 a year. And I mean, I worked so many hours and day, night, awful hours, weekends. And so I hit that in 2021. But what happened was it wasn't my business that I had built. I had built the definition of what I thought it was supposed to look like. And then B, as the year went on, I didn't have the fulfillment. I was disconnected. It was like, this is not it. And it all crashed. Like I actually crashed lower than what I did in my income from my full-time job. And as we want to talk about messing with your own personal value, now it's like, wow, I suck. Like that's what the language was happening. And I had to really dive in and do a lot of work and healing and do some work in understanding what my values were. And when I started to do that was when dots really started to connect for me.
Yeah, I love value work. They can shift, obviously, but we lose sight of what's important to us, or not even just that, what we believe could be important to us. Because I think, again, we dismiss things that we think we can't have because we've done things the same way for so long.
Yes. Yes.
Okay, let's dial it right back to ground the basics here. How would you describe or define the subconscious mind?
So how I would describe, I'm gonna take it one step back further. So NLP, neuro linguistic programming, is like the neurology, the information that we take in, right? The language that we're using, and the programming of how like we see the world, how we respond to the world. That is really that, like we take the information in, how we process it and how we program it back out is creating the world that we're seeing. And I had a lot of resistance when I heard these words because I was like, wait, you mean how can I be creating this? Like, why would I choose this? But this is the piece of it. So for me, the very, very basic is that we have a conscious mind and a subconscious mind. Okay. Our conscious mind, it's our goal setter. So if I set a goal of like, imagine making a vision board, most people can relate to a vision board. First thing people do when they make the vision board is they put all these beautiful, huge things on it. Rarely do they ever put themselves in the vision board, which is a massive mistake because you want to see yourself in what you're creating,
Yeah.
not the magazine girl who you don't look anything like. That's not what you want. It messes with your mind. Okay. So conscious mind is the 5%. That's the work hard. That's the struggle identity. And so that means that you feel it's 100% effort and you are into 5% of what you can do. And so here's the conscious effort. That's the goal setter. We're great at setting goals. The subconscious mind is really your body. I'm going to say your body. And it is responsible for 95% of how you think, how you speak, your decisions, your thoughts, your actions, your experiences, your interpretation of your experiences. And sadly, most of that was really created up until the age of like 8 years old. And that is our subconscious mind. It's being developed between that like 0 to 8, 8 to 10. And then like 10 to 12 is your reticular activating system really starts to come in. And that's the thing in you that, you think you want to get a red car and then all of a sudden you see 10 red cars.
Mhm.
Your mind starts to focus on what you are telling it to focus on. And then your actual conscious mind is like from 12, 13 onward. So the subconscious mind is really where all of that lives and all of those thoughts, decisions, and beliefs all live. And why is that important? Because it's your goal getter. If it's not on board with this vision that you have up here, then you are in a constant tug of war inside of yourself. And most people are, to be honest, like most people are. And you cannot outwork something that you don't think is possible. Like you can't. And I think based on even what we've been talking about now, you can relate to that. Like I would work 2-3 times harder than what most people would do. And it was still not enough. Like it was still not enough. And then I would berate myself for having a burnout and I would berate myself for not doing enough. And I'm like, meanwhile, you're doing like so much more than even what's required. And so that was the disconnect for me. And so when I really talk about, 2021 having the success and 2022, it really crashing into 2023, that was the moment where I went, okay, wait, like there's a massive disconnect in what I say I want and what I actually believe I can do. Believing in yourself is important, but I can pour belief into anyone if they're not open to receive it, or if the old programming is completely in contradiction to what you're trying to tell a client, then that wins. Old programming wins every time. You have to change old programming first. That's why it actually, if it's only 5%, is your conscious mind. You can't outwork something you don't believe is possible. You have to take the time to look at what that root belief was. And so if I can share, when I hit a point where my business crashed again, I did some value work. And when I did some value work in a breakthrough session, I was the client. And in the breakthrough session, what came up, it shocked me, right? Your subconscious limiting beliefs will come to the surface and they won't make sense to anyone else. Anyone else around you is going to go, that's ridiculous. But that's real for you. And for me, what came up was that if my business grew, my health and my relationships would suffer. And as soon as it came to the surface, I went, oh my God, no wonder I'm not going to let my business grow because my health is my number one value. My relationships are number 2. So if I feel threatened that I will lose them if my business grows, then no wonder I'm creating this tug of war inside of myself. You want them to work together because your subconscious mind is your powerhouse of how you show up in the world, how you act, react, speak. And getting that on board means that you have much better opportunity to create like easier and effortless results in your life.
Yeah, things just kind of magically shift around. It's almost hard to explain because I can remember some moments like key markers where I feel like I definitely shifted some subconscious beliefs and things around me started to change somewhat effortlessly. One of the big shifts I had to work through a lot of money things as like a struggling graphic designer, right? So a lot of us are underpaid. Just a year and a half ago, I went to this job interview. They offered me like the same amount of money that I would have made in like 2001. Like it's insane. So, but what was interesting, I had to work through a lot of things being underpaid, blah, blah, blah. Then one day I'm working with some freelance clients. Not only were they a joy to work with, they paid me before I invoiced them, both of them.
Oh,
Like literally sent me money before I'd actually even physically invoiced them. One of them even on her own added the HST. I was like, I was just basically getting money with 0 effort no battling, no struggle. And they were dream clients.
How did
Like,
that feel in the very first time? How did it feel?
it was a bit surprising. Like, I remember feeling like shocked. I think I had done enough work that I was like, oh no, this is good. This is how it should be feeling. This is
Yeah.
the 180 from the struggle. One of those people ended up bringing me other clients that I still work with that
Love that.
are like lovely and also pay me. And it's, I knew I did some work, and this was quite a few years ago, but like that is when your subconscious is on board with something and your body feels safe. And I know we want to talk about the body stuff because my body felt safe to receive the money and also to have the nice clients, to have the good experience, the general positive experience, as opposed to the nightmares that I had been through in especially my 20s. And I would say
Mm.
some of my 30s too.
Good for you. I love that. Thank you for sharing that, because that's a piece of it is, had you had a moment of like, okay, I like this, but it doesn't feel right and I don't understand. Like that's then when you get the body on board with knowing that it's safe to be in this space. But when you can have clients and experiences like that, it's like, oh, interesting. Like it can be like this. It can feel like this. So getting that body on board, this is not my quote. This is Joe Dispenza, and he talks about that thoughts are the language of the mind and feelings are the language of the body. You cannot outthink how your body feels. Your body is always speaking to you, and that your body is your subconscious mind. When you've had a traumatic or a not traumatic, it doesn't have to be a traumatic experience. It's your perception of something, or you make a meaning of something. You store that as like in your body. And if you ask yourself, sometimes it's like, how does that feel in your body? If there's like an immediate contraction, it's like, okay, that's where there's work to do.
Mhm.
It's a mirror that there's a limiting belief. There's a story there that you want to create change with. And so good for you in that sense, because I know the first few times when that happens, it's like, oh, wow, this is different. And, I mean this with so much love, but like, I know back in 2020 and 2021, there were very few clients and experiences that were exciting me. I just,
Mhm.
sorry, they
Mhm.
just were not. And I was feeling a lot of frustration, but I didn't know what was best for me. And I didn't know like what kinds of clients I wanted to work with. And now this is not the case. Like I look at, how the kinds of clients that I have now, it takes time to be able to say yes to that and allow yourself in that space. But that also means that there are times I say no. I have refunded clients. I have said, you know what? I don't think I'm the person for you. Because if I don't feel it's a good energy mix, I feel if you say yes to that, that's toxic money. I personally, I think it's toxic.
Yes. Yes. I could, wow, that could be a whole other episode. I feel like that's absolutely true because it's not authentic. And one of the things that I've always really admired about you, the way you show up, the way everything you talk about, you are coming from an authentic place. I feel like you really are. Yeah, it's just definitely something that it's not easy.
No, it's not. And every time I get frustrated because something doesn't feel easy, a really great question. Like if you want to play around and almost not trick your subconscious mind, but just change the languaging. One of the questions you can ask yourself, like when I say that's not easy, I'm like, well, when did you decide it was supposed to be? And it's like, I don't know when I decided that. Like, that's interesting. When did I decide that? Like, so when people
Right.
say that's not fair, and I'm like, when did you decide it was supposed to be fair?
Right.
And all of a sudden you interrupt a pattern. Like that's one of the best things you can do with a limiting thought is interrupt the pattern. Because if I can give you one little bit of science, in a sense, I love this. And if you listen to me, you would have heard me say this 100 times. 60 to 80,000 thoughts a day, 80 to 90% of them we repeat every single day. And 90% of those repeat ones are negative. So we are literally on a negative repeat loop of our own thoughts. That's been over decades. So if you think about this, like the best thing you can do is interrupt a pattern. You have to interrupt it because you have to recognize that, wait, is that true? Like, is that actually true? That's not true, but you're interrupting it so that you actually can be in a space of consciously interrupting a subconscious pattern that's happening. That's how you start to change the way you see it. You have to be open to a different way of seeing it. And that might mean it's not an immediate change in your life. But your subconscious mind does not understand negative. So if you're only ever speaking about what you don't want,
Mhm.
you're not leaving any room to create what you do want.
100%. Yeah. And it is like a pattern interrupter. And I think that has been key for me. Like when I started on the personal development journey decades ago, I mean, I was like 14, 15 when I started reading, I'll call them weirdo books because my mom was a yoga teacher and she had these weirdo books beside her bed, like to read at night. But one of the things I realized was how I was talking to myself, what I'm saying to myself, how I'm seeing the world, and the pattern interruption of I'm not a huge affirmation person. I do like post about what I call Maven mantras, but I will say that they're helpful for as that pattern interrupter, a way for me to take my brain out of where it is and where it wants to go. So I feel like that's a really good first step for anybody to just recognize, like what you said, how you said it was so eloquently is just, why am I thinking it has to be this way? Or questioning why we're thinking what we're thinking, why we're saying what we're saying to ourselves, and where is it kind of coming from? I also find that fascinating. Like, whose words are those? Because as I said, everything is a struggle. Those were my father's words.
You and me both. I'm going to say that.
Yeah.
Sorry, Dad, but you and me both.
Yeah.
And I had to say at one point, and I know it's all said out of love. I know that there's not a judgment in that. But at one point he said, you haven't paid enough dues. And all of a sudden, I just stopped and I went, wow, now I see where that comes from. Like I literally was like, I see where that comes from. And I had to be in a point where I just looked at him. And this is where, how do you know the work you're doing is working? You react differently. All of a sudden you see like, wow, my reaction was different. I just sat there and I looked and I went, you know what? That's your story. That's actually not my story. And it was like, I felt freedom from a story that was never mine. And I just, honestly, it was the most relieving thing. Of course, he looked at me like I had four heads because he didn't understand what I was saying. But I was just like, it's not my story. And that's a beautiful thing, right? Like
Yeah.
it doesn't have
Yeah.
to be traumatic. It's that you interpret
Yes.
something and you take it on as real, like as actual, like rock solid truth. And it wasn't truth. That doesn't mean that you don't have to work to create something. You absolutely do. But there's a way to work in an aligned way. It does not mean that you have to burn out, have zero health left in order to achieve something. I don't believe in that. I
No,
really don't.
I agree. And part of what I love to say is that there's a difference between hard work and struggle. And it's for me, that was the big lesson for me is like, I love to work hard. I'm very committed. I love I just get satisfaction. I'm a worker person. I like it. But I had to learn the difference because the struggle was leaving me depleted, burnt out, angry,
Resentful?
resentful,
Resentful.
resentful. Yeah.
Yeah, big time.
All of those, like, so resentful, and I just was like, "How can this be my life?" Like, how and ironically, my parents came to this country to give me a better life, and yet well, I don't know, there was a huge part of my struggle story was feeling guilty about having an easier life than my parents. I think that's
Mm,
very common of children who had immigrant parents who kinda
yep.
came to the country with nothing, so I felt extremely guilty even though they literally did everything to make my life and my sister's better, right?
Mhm.
So then I had to learn, okay, I wanna keep working. I wanna be committed, get good at what I do, but why do I have to be, feeling like there's no light at the end of the tunnel every single day?
Mhm. That's really, really powerful. That's really powerful. Because I think when you have this kind of conversation, I think something that's actually really important, and this is so interesting when I work with women, is like, what is your definition of success? Do you know how many, honestly, I really encourage people, like wherever you are in your business, what does success mean to you? Because it's really important to understand what that is. Because if you don't know what that is, you're chasing something that's somebody else's vision of what success is. And for me, I just health and relationships are important to me. So in 2022, I anchored in on like a new belief system. I was changing a limiting belief. And for me, it was that as my business grows, my health and my relationships thrive. Both, I get to have both. And I was a guest on a podcast and a male host said to me, it's pretty bold, isn't it? And I said, sure is. Like, sure is. And he was like, well, how can you be so certain? I'm like, because I decided. Like, it's just decided. And I turned and I was like, I was just curious. Would you ask a male client that? Like, would you
Yeah.
ask a male? I don't think so. I don't think so. And for me, it was very much that it's like every decision I made, I'm like, will my health and my relationships get to thrive if I say yes to this? And it's like, yeah, okay, well, then I say yes. And if it's a no, then it's not right now.
Yeah. I kind of, when you talk about that podcaster asking you that question, like my interpretation of that, and I don't know if this is true, but that it's almost like he thought you were greedy to want both, like want so much. And then I was like, that greed piece, I see this come up in clients too. It's like, I can't have more than crumbs because that's greedy. And it's asking for too much. And it's like I'm wanting to take up too much space. It's all those things. There's so many pieces to that.
There is. And I think you nailed it there. I mean, I know it brings up this feeling of greed. And the way I like to look at that, like it took me a long time to work through this. And that was when you said the word affirmation, I mean, that's another whole podcast. I don't really believe in just shouting an affirmation, especially if you're not connected to it. If it doesn't evoke emotion, right? If emotions live in my body subconsciously, if that's where they live, my feelings, then the words that you speak, if you want to create change, need to evoke an emotion. That's how you know, right? So if I just stand there, I'm like, I am worthy. I'm like, okay, for what? Worthy
Yes.
for what? Like, it doesn't mean anything. But for me, as my business grows, my relationships and health thrive. I get to have it all. That evoked some emotion for me. How I lead myself every single day is a result of my health and my relationships. Those are that can be a relationship with myself. Okay. That doesn't have to be it. So that's a piece of it. And the more I double down on that, that means that I can lead myself in difficult conversations. I can lead myself in bigger projects and not totally on my own. Like, trust me, I have help. I would lose it without my help, but there's no question. It's a piece of recognizing that it can look like this. You get to design it the way that you want. Now, as an entrepreneur, in full transparency, like there might be days that I will actually intentionally, I'm going to do it today. I will go out for a walk in the middle of the day to show myself that I can carve out time in my day for me. I am always creating evidence. And that might mean I might be working till 9:00 tonight. And that's okay because I am showing that I have choice and agency in my day because I'm creating it because my health and my relationships are important.
Yeah, that's so powerful to collect the evidence, as I always say. Like
Always.
we can collect the evidence from past things. We can look at like how we've pulled through and successes, and then we can also start the power of building new habits or small things that we do. I've talked about this kind of almost ad nauseum, but I've been just walking 2 kilometers a day for the last. I'm trying to do 365 days in a row. Okay, so that is for me just about collecting the evidence that I'm committed to my mental health, my physical health, just moving. It's 20, 25 minutes of my day. For me, I was like, this is for my brain. Ultimately, this is for my brain. This is to reprogram my subconscious mind that I'm worth it. I can do this. I can go out in a snowstorm, whatever it is. It's resilience. Like, it's really more about that than anything else.
And do you see how I love that? Thank you for sharing that because as you do that, then I encourage people to like make sure every day you take 5 minutes just to stack your wins, even mentally. Like, what did I do today? What did I do for myself today? Not what did I get done? Not that. What did I do for myself today? How did I lead myself today? How did I take care of myself today? And you stack some wins. You keep stacking wins on a regular basis. There is no way that your self-worth won't continue to rise because
yes.
you're pouring into yourself. So that is more valuable than just saying, I am worthy, I am worthy, I am worthy.
Yeah, absolutely. And you have to get to the point where you want to feel good. And that was like a huge thing for me. It's like, I don't want to feel this way. And you talked about that right at the beginning of our conversation, not feeling like feeling crappy and not wanting to feel that. But I genuinely wanted to feel crappy for a long time as like a form of self-punishment, right? So we're so weird as humans. Now it is funny how you become allergic to the things you were once addicted to. So I really feel quite allergic to, let's say, an overpacked calendar, which is one of my default things. I can't handle it now. I can't do it. I will just like start like frantically canceling stuff or pulling stuff out. Like I have no problems doing it, saying like because I so don't want to be in that state anymore. And because I deserve better and I want better and I like feeling better and not having that frantic, dispersed feeling like all the time.
Thank you for sharing that. And I love that because that's a red flag for me. Now, my calendar for sure is more full than what I would say. I'm just going to say, I'm going to be totally honest. And I also recognize, like I've changed my calendar a lot in the last 3 years. So if I can share in a sense, like I have sprint times. There are
Mhm.
times when we're almost in a sprint mode. We have deadlines. We have projects that are coming up. We publish books now. Like we have deadlines that is a team approach. And so, yeah, there are things that definitely require more time. And then I also recognize, okay, when that's done, we've blocked this. When this happens, we've created this.
Mhm.
And I've done that with my calendar. So probably 2 years ago, I thought it was crazy to do this and it didn't make sense. But every month in my business, the last week of the month, you can't book in with me. I'm not off, I'm working, but I'm not client facing. I
Mhm.
might have a call for my, my mastermind or so, like a call, but like you cannot book anything else, no podcasts, no nothing. And that started to feel like, okay, well, the other 3 weeks are full, but now I have a catch up week and that helps me to plan for the next month. So I'm not feeling like I'm frantic. Fridays, Fridays are overflow day. You cannot book in my calendar on
Yeah.
Fridays. Ah, no, sorry, you just get to you get to create it and design it. And that might sound, I did hear a person say that probably 2 years ago. I'm like, well, that must be nice for her. And I'm like, I bet it is nice for her, actually. Why don't I look and see what I can do with
Yeah.
that? And so you
Yeah.
can find ways that you can manage your calendar so that even when I don't have as much white space, I know there's breaks coming in there. Like I
Yes.
know that.
That makes sense. And that's actually how I would kind of work too, because I like to kind of go intense on things but I 100% need recalibration time. It's the same as if I go, because I'm a classic introvert. If I go to a party, please don't call me for any other parties for like maybe 5 months after. So that's the recalibration period. And that's what you can build into your calendar. But the point is, you can build your life however you want to. And I think that's one of the things that you help people do is figure out what their version of how they want their life to go, again, connected to what their version of success is. For me, success is definitely working at home at this season of my life. Like that's a huge piece of it because I just have way more time to work on myself. And I've got a very senior dog that takes like a huge amount of energy. So I want to be there. Like, but this is going to change, potentially down the road. You get to design things. And I want to know, like, is it all the programming we've received that we get into that belief system that we can't change things?
I believe it's the programming. I believe it's the people around us. I believe it's what we expose ourselves to. So if you go back to, 60 to 80,000 thoughts a day, 80 to 90% are repeated every day and have been for decades for some of us.
Right.
90% are negative. This is where it's a little bit mind blowing. That is before the world of social media gets us. That is before the news gets us. That's before like people in our life get us. That's just me and me. That's all that is. That's just me and me. So I have my own programming. And then if you are somebody who is like open season when it comes to social media, comes to you're leaving yourself vulnerable to a lot of open loops, energy leaks, negative
Mhm.
opinions, etc. So I often say, like, if you look at your homepage on Instagram, for example, it'll tell you what you've been searching, what you're looking. It's kind of like that's your subconscious mind.
Yeah.
Is if you think about it, like if your search page is full of news, negative fights, political, whatever that is. I'm not
Yes.
saying not to be informed. I'm not saying that.
Yeah.
But I will also, it's not uncommon for me to watch like 20 minutes of dog videos at night. It's not.
Mhm.
It's just because I love it and it makes me laugh and it feels good. So the battle is always going to be you versus you. It feels like I'm afraid of what people will think, say about me, my family, all these things. Honestly, I think those are excuses. And I think I say that twice. Those are excuses because
Mhm.
it's me versus me at all times. It's always me versus me. No one can stop me or start me. I have to do that myself. And I'm not saying that from a standpoint of like, alone on an island. It's just the agency piece that really it comes down to me versus me. So we have a lot of programming we do. And a lot of that we can still change it at any
Yeah.
time.
The agency piece. I think it's like I think that's a program that we don't have agency over our lives, what
Oh,
we think, what we consume. I try to be conscious of what I'm consuming because consciously trying to protect my brain is what I'm trying to
same.
do. Right?
I don't we don't it's not a win or lose, right? I just find
No,
it not like the world is a little bit nuts right now.
it's
There's a lot of
nuts.
stuff happening.
Yeah.
And I think there's a line of being informed. But if you go back to what we talked about earlier in feeling in your body, The second I start to feel like this contraction or this like we're screwed. Like if I start to feel that, I'm like, okay, shut it down. Like just shut it down because that's not helping me, right? It's not helping me. And so it's how can you bring it back and pay attention to what does it feel like in your body? So back to what we spoke about earlier, what your definition of success is. And I ask women what their definition is. And a lot of times they'll give me this beautiful state. I'm like, that's amazing. Now it happens tomorrow. How does that feel? And immediately they're like, oh my God, not yet. Like not yet. And I'm like, that your body is speaking to you in a way to say that if you do not get your subconscious mind on board with the direction that you're moving in, what happens is you can have this goal set up here, and I'm here for big goal setters, trust me. You can have a big goal right up here. If your belief in yourself is down here and you got a ruler and there's like 10 inches, centimeters, whatever we want to say, apart, and you don't address the beliefs in yourself, and then you don't hit the goal, then what happens is your beliefs don't stay there. They actually drop. And the gap between where you are and what you want to create only increases. So your belief in yourself starts to drop. And what happens is shame starts to apply to that. Now all of a sudden it's like, this must not be for me. And we're just like we're kicking ourselves when we're down and bringing it down further. So bringing that subconscious mind on board and getting like asking, how does that feel? Like, how do I feel inside if I can do this? What does that look like? And if it doesn't feel great, then ask yourself why.
Yeah.
Start
And there's so
asking.
many reasons that you think it doesn't feel great, or you can think it's not going to feel great. And that's not because you don't necessarily want it, because you could. But again, back to other people tearing you down, the tall poppy syndrome. Like, who do you think you are for doing that, walking the TEDx stage, whatever it is? There are just so many reasons. And I think it's getting crystal clear. And I think that's one of the things you do so well is help people get crystal clear on what it is that they're afraid of.
I love to just be real and have that conversation because that's where the change actually starts, is like being real with what that is. For a lot of women, honestly, I do not believe that women are afraid of failing. I really don't believe it. I think that we put ourselves out there every single day. I think we are afraid of, can we hold success if it happens?
Oh,
Can
yes.
I still
Yes.
hold the success and manage my life and my kids and my job and my personal life? Can I act? I don't know if I can manage all that. So how about we just do it at like 75%? Is that good enough? Like, is that good enough? Do you know what I mean? Like we downplay it because we don't know if we can hold it all. And I'm not saying we have to hold it all and not ask for help, but I really do think it requires getting clear on what success means, asking yourself how it feels in your body and looking at where that disconnect is.
So if someone's noticing that they are like they're thinking about a goal, or they're wanting to start a project, and let's say the anxiety symptoms start bubbling up, you're like the sweaty palms, the increased heart rate, whatever it is in their body. We love to talk anxiety in the show because I've talked openly about a lot of anxiety symptoms. What's the first thing that you would recommend them do?
First thing I would ask them is like, what do they think will happen? Like, so ask them, what are they feeling right now? What's coming up right now? So if it's like, you can feel that contraction, what is it? And they might be, I don't know. And my next question is always, I know you don't know, but if you did know, what is it? Because it's like getting to the root of what that belief is. And say, for example, it's like, I really want this, but I don't know if I can manage all of these things. And paint me a picture of what this looks like when you do have this, so that you can start to speak life into what you want to create. And then if you watch the client enough, you can start to see a moment where, like, it's called sensory acuity in NLP. You can start to see like their body language change, their eyes change, the way they speak is faster, like they're excited about something they're creating. So if that's the piece of it, how can we get so clear on what life looks like here, what their picture of success looks like here, so that this becomes something that they can desire, like they can see it happening, and then they can start to work towards that. Now, then it becomes a case of, the languaging towards it. How do I speak? Right. I shared a reel today about the fact that, like, don't think of a purple cow. And it's, people are laughing and I'm like, but seriously, did you think of a purple cow? Because you did.
You can't not think of the purple
You can't
cow.
not think of it. Because I said don't, but you don't hear that because your subconscious mind doesn't hear negative. So how can you speak life into where you're going and start to create a picture of what will you see, feel, and hear when you're there? So yes, it's being honest with yourself about why you think you can't. Okay. And then it's also being clear about the picture of what you want here. Success does not have to mean like a $500,000 a year business with 10 clients and a staff of 10. And it doesn't have to mean that. It means whatever you want it to mean. And getting clear on that, that also means sometimes you actually have to quiet the noise to get clear on what's important to you.
Yeah. I like to say, and I visualize this too, put blinders on. So you think of a
Oh, yeah.
horse with blinders. And so listeners can't see, but I'll like literally put my hands on the side of my head. And it is really kind of my symbol for blocking out everything else that's coming at me and for me to get really connected to what I want and to block that noise out.
I love that you said that. I think blinders are very important. I do not think you can operate in the world of social media without blinders. I honestly don't.
Yeah.
I think
Thank you for saying that.
I
Yeah.
really think and I say blinders, there are times, especially I'm in like busy mode, in a launching mode. It's like blinders, blinders, blinders. And so as I go through, if a feeling comes up in my body, for example, that it's like, oh, something that she's saying is triggering me, but triggering me in a way that it doesn't make me feel good about myself. And that's not what she's doing. But that's how I'm feeling. I mute. I even go as far sometimes as muting people that are doing very similar things to me, because I lose my languaging of what I'm speaking about because I get swayed by, well, she looks like she's having success doing it that way. I wonder if I should try it that way. So blinders, I come back to, I bet you I say blinders once a day. And then I will put timelines on social media. I'll put blinders on my calendar in my day, on my phone, because you're conserving energy. Like you're conserving energy, which is giving you a chance to do all the big things you say you want to do.
Great way to look at it, conserving energy. And for me, energy is my most valuable commodity. It's more important to me than time, actually, is my energy, because I'm someone who can deplete so quickly. And I spent so much of my life depleting, like just bleeding out is how I would describe it. So my energy protection is nothing's more important. And so that is conservation of energy. I just think that's a really great way to think of it.
Yeah, I actually believe it's all energy. I think
Yeah.
I really, really do, because if your energy feels good, you're likely to do something that speaks to like what you're trying to create. So one of the things you asked me before was like, how can you help a person who's having that moment of like, but I want to do this, but I don't know where that block is or what that looks like, is if you can start to paint a picture of what life looks like as you are creating this, as you are saying yes to the things that light you up, then I often get into the energy of what decision would she make? So sometimes I'm in a space of like, I don't know what to do. Like I've got deadlines. I don't know how to do this. And I get into the, I don't know. Well, of course I don't know, because I just told myself that 10 times. Right. I don't know. And so I will stop and I'm like, okay, the version of me who already has what I said I wanted to have, how would she decide? And I always laugh, because she would have made a decision like 5 minutes ago and move on. And that's just my reminder. It's not act as if, it's like being that version. Your subconscious mind does not know time either. So if you actually practice that, visualize it, see it, feel it, hear it multiple times a day, it doesn't take long. You start to see like, this is who I am and this is how I behave. This is how I lead myself. And this version of you doesn't seem so far away, because you're showing up like her, as her, multiple times throughout the day.
Oh, that's so powerful. That's amazing. Thank you for sharing it that way, because just the way you articulate that, I think it's going to help a lot of people.
Good.
Okay, so I want to ask a question I always ask my guests, and that is, in the spirit of helping people ditch the struggle, what do you think is the most important thing to commit to?
I'm going to follow my gut. My first gut answer here is that, why do you believe struggle has to exist? Like, you need to change the meaning that you're attaching to struggle. So do you want the struggle? What does the struggle mean for you? What is it like? So interrupting a pattern, I think, is the first thing. I mean, I resonate so much with your story, because I was attached to the words of stuck and struggle very, very much. They were identifiers for me. I had to become aware of how often I was saying them, how often I was creating this belief that that was real. And then what could I speak instead? So if you want to change a word in the moment, how can you change a phrase that you say all the time and shift it in the moment? That's a piece of it. So I felt I didn't have any choice. I felt like I was a parent who was dealing with minors, and I didn't have a ton of choices. I didn't have a lot of options. My home life was beyond chaotic. So I felt like I didn't have a choice in my life. And the word stuck, struggle, and choice were with me nonstop. So I started to become aware of how often I said them. And then for me, the word choice became very clear. It was like, wait, is that my choice? I'm like, nope, that one's not my choice either. That one's not my choice. That one's not my choice. I'm like, wait, where are my choices in this? And then all of a sudden it was like, oh, agency. I can own my own choices. Like there's a reason my podcast is named that,
Yes.
because those are the words I lived by. Was instead of the words that weren't supporting me, how could I anchor in on the words that could? And choice was it. So long answer, but I would look at the words and the reason why you feel that that is true. And then how can you speak life into what you want instead? But you can reframe a sentence in the moment. And you just also, people will say, do I have to do this every day? And I'm like, do you think every day? Oh, you do? Oh, you do. Okay. So then, yes, remember 60 to 80,000 thoughts a day. You do have to do this every day. You do. But it will get easier. It will get easier because you're going to catch yourself. You'll catch yourself.
It so
Like,
does. Yeah.
yeah, I don't speak nearly the way I did 10 years, not even close to how I did. You don't even realize that it's getting better. And then all of a sudden you're like, oh, I responded to that differently. I get a comment that you're meant to pay your dues. And I'm like, oh, that's not my story. Whereas an old version of me would have been like arguing and fighting it. I just
Yeah.
went, that's not mine, actually.
Yeah.
So you start to see that you're reacting differently because you're putting in consistent reps to change that thinking.
Yeah, and I mean, coming from the physical background that you did with your line of work, you understand reps, you understand consistency, you understand that that's necessary to do it every day, show up every day.
Yeah, it's actually really funny because I spent my first 27 years all about reps, understanding repetition, like helping
Yeah.
people to move when they were afraid, like really not having a clue that languaging was a part of this. And then all of a sudden, I lost my job and I had to learn how to walk again
Yeah.
myself physically. And that was actually a moment where I felt this identity of like, I wasted 27 years. Like I could have been doing something else, until I remember being in the hospital going, maybe all of that experience was to teach me how to rehab myself. So then,
1,000%.
and
Yes,
then all of a sudden,
yes.
it was like, it wasn't wasted. It
No.
wasn't wasted. My recovery was really good considering
Ah,
what I went through. And so you can reframe anything. Honestly, even for anyone who's listening, some thought you're stuck on that is not serving and supporting you, you can reframe it and see it differently. And the more you can learn how to do that faster in your life, you just like on to the next, move forward. This is how she thinks and operates. She doesn't spend time dwelling over here angry that she spent 27 years doing a job that didn't lead her where she wanted to. I learned a ton in that job, a ton, and it was not wasted. And now all of a sudden it was like body movement, mind movement. It all connects. I'm like, oh, I get it now. I see those dots and how they connect.
it connects, like, I've had some crazy jobs, some awful jobs, all these weird jobs, and I don't think I spend a minute really regretting any of it because there's well, first of all, as we always say when you're podcasting, there's so much content that you get from these experiences. Somehow, some way, they all tie together, and the further you get along in life, I think it becomes a little bit more clear, and having, I think, gratitude for those experiences as if that sounds a bit cliche, but I really kind of feel that now.
I do too. I do too.
Yeah.
And even if I struggle with finding gratitude sometimes when things are really hard, I just stop and think like, what is this teaching me? Because everything is
Mhm.
teaching me something, right?
Yeah.
Everything is teaching me something. I promise the language that we use when we are dealing with something is so powerful. And if you really understood how powerful it was, you would double down on it and catch yourself in all of those times and
Yeah,
things.
words matter.
They matter so much.
And that's why generally you're not gonna hear me do too much self-deprecating humor. Like, I love humor, I try and bring that to the table, but I really catch myself. That's something that I have kind of decided not to do. Yeah,
Was that
because
something you used to do too?
I think so. I think it's an easy in to make things funny, and, like, I can make fun of myself, but I generally won't do it if it's casting myself in a negative light because that's not good for my subconscious.
Oh, it's terrible. It's
Yeah.
actually it's a meaning making machine. So if you're going to talk really crappy about yourself, what happens is imagine it's like a mirror. Your subconscious is like, oh, it's responding to you. So you wanted evidence of when you were an idiot. You wanted evidence of when
Mhm.
you made mistakes. just a second, let me pull up those memories for you. Pull them up and you're like, oh my God, look at all these times I failed.
Look at the
And
slideshow.
the slideshow that you're running. Like,
Yeah, that we're running.
in charge of it.
Yeah, we're putting on the show. So
Yeah.
yes,
Yeah, that's a
amazing.
good one, actually. I like the metaphor of the slideshow. That's a good one, actually.
Thinking of the old carousels with the clickety
Yeah,
click.
so was I.
Although we could think of a carousel on Instagram. But anyway, so Marsha, please tell everyone where they can find you, best place to connect with you.
I think I hang out on Instagram the most is where I am. That is Marsha Van W. My website is Marsha Van W. And my podcast is Own Your Choices, Own Your Life. And we are 800 and I don't know. I think it's 830 episodes deep
It's
right
epic.
now.
You've been going for a long time. I've been listening for a couple of years now. It's very inspiring because that's a dedication to something, which is also you showing up, and that's also showing your clients that you show up, and there's just like a beautiful loop that's happening there.
It's something that's very important to me, and not a lot of people understand that. Like I've had a lot of mentors say you should never be doing this much for free. And it's interesting. I just check in regularly, go back in. How do I feel about it? That's great. Thanks for your opinion, but how do I feel? And I check in and it's like, no, it's important. It actually helps me to sort through a lot of my own. I share a lot of personal things on the podcast and it helps me to navigate a lot of things. And at the same time, I think the really driving force for me is it puts valuable free content out there to support people at different points in their journey.
Mm-hmm.
When I first started, YouTube videos were all I could do, and books. I couldn't even join a coaching program. That would have never happened. And so I like having a free resource available for people where they can plug into it. So yeah, I'm really proud of the podcast. So thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. And I will put the links to everything in the show notes, and I really appreciate your time today because I needed to hear these messages as well. So thank you.
Oh, thank you for having me. I'm happy to support. I love your podcast, and the message is so, so good. If more women could ditch that struggle, honestly, and change that language, I think we would shock ourselves. I really do. I think we'd shock ourselves because if we think the goal is going to require a tremendous amount of struggle, no wonder we're going to fall short of it every single time. It doesn't have to look that way. It doesn't.
No, I agree. Thank you so much for helping us figure that out. Thank you for joining me today on Ditch the Struggle. You showing up here means so, so much to me. To dig deeper into the topics discussed today and to learn about my work, visit alanarosa.com. And don't forget to download your free resources while you're there. And if this episode resonated with you, please share with others who also want to ditch the struggle. Go ahead and subscribe to the podcast, leave a rating and a review, and let me know what you'd like to see more of on this podcast. And before I go, I want to leave you with my 3 favorite ways to ditch the struggle. Be your own best advocate, take baby steps for the win, and forget about a linear career path. It's overrated and you are doing just fine. See you next time.